everyone! I think that it's pretty well established that I like to spoil my cat Gremlin. Oh, this is my little kitty. He loves me. So when I saw these really interesting looking sculptural felt cat caves, I knew that I had to try to make one for him. So today we're going to be wet felting a cat cave. Now this video is going to be sort of a tutorial, but since it's my first time doing this technique, I feel like it's going to be more of a watch how I made this and I kind of will tell you what I did sort of video. I've wet felted before, but it's just been the kind where you like knit or crochet and then you toss it into the washing machine for a little bit and then it felts. Never with loose wool roving where you had to like hand scrub it and everything like that. So I might make a bunch of mistakes. So if there are any wet felters out there who see any glaring mistakes in this video, please let me know because I would like to learn. And I would like to make sure to correct myself in a little annotation to tell people I did it wrong and that this is the proper way to do it. So I did quite a bit of research before starting my project, and I ended up kind of doing a mishmash of a bunch of different tutorials. I kind of went on my instinct of how I should do it, which since I've never done it before, who knows if I did it right. All I know is that in the end, it generally turned out how I wanted it to be. And so I'm happy with that. Anyway, enough about all this stuff. Let's get started. Here's what I used. Piece of cardboard cut into a circle or oval between 20 to 25 inches in diameter. I went with 25 because my cat is a kind of big dude. Towels, 2 layers of bubble wrap, enough to cover the cardboard, tulle, PVC pipe, or I've also seen people use pool noodles, but I just for some reason had a PVC pipe laying around in my house, so that's what I used. A squeeze bottle full of hot soapy water. I didn't have a squeeze bottle, so I just poked a hole in the top of a water bottle. Also, you're going to have contact with the water, so make sure that it's as hot as you can stand. String. I've also seen people use nylon tights, but I didn't have any that I felt like cutting up, so I just used string. Olive oil soap, scissors, and approximately 12 ounces of wool roving. This is only about half of the roving that I used. I horribly misjudged how much I needed initially, and I had to leave mid-project to go get more. I laid the bubble wrap, bubble side up, and put my cardboard circle on top. Then I attempted to pull thin chunks of black wool and place them on top. Around the edges, I made them hang over about halfway, and then inside, I laid them all horizontally. As you can see, I didn't really do the best job on this side. What's going to happen is that I'm going to completely encase the cardboard with the felt, and then later cut into the felt and pull the cardboard out, and then that will make the piece hollow. Anyway, I covered it with tulle, sprinkled some hot soapy water, and gently ran the olive oil soap over the tulle, and then began rubbing the wool through the tulle in small circular motions with my fingertips. Later on, I ended up switching to using my whole flat hand, which I think I prefer more, and it seemed to work the same way. I rubbed the wool until it just started to felt together. Then I carefully removed the tulle. This looks okay. Then I put the other layer of bubble wrap on top, bubbles facing the wool, and then in one swift movement, I flipped the whole thing over. I wet my hands with warm soapy water and flipped the wool sticking out from the edges over on top. You're supposed to try to keep this right up against the cardboard, but without pulling it away from the wool on the bottom. I didn't really do that great of a job with this, so later on I have a bunch of wrinkles and stuff. Then you're going to repeat the process of placing the wool around the edges horizontally on the inside, laying the tulle, sprinkling water, rubbing soap, and then rubbing with your fingers until it starts to felt. Remove the tulle, cover with bubble wrap, flip over, and then with wet soapy hands, flip the wool over the edges again. I repeated this process of putting wool chunks all around the edge again, but on this side, I placed the pieces vertically. Also, initially, I planned to do this layer in black again, but like I mentioned earlier, I horribly misjudged how much wool I'd need, and I ran short. So this layer, I made white. We can just pretend that I did this on purpose so that it would show up better on camera. I then repeated the process of covering with tulle, wetting, soaping, and rubbing the wool. Then I repeated this on the other side again with vertical wool placement. Flipped and repeated the process again, but with horizontal wool placement this time. And then again. Basically, you go one way on both sides and then switch it up by going the other direction. And this is supposed to help the wool interlock with itself later on. So finally, I'm on to the second to last layer, where I did exactly like before, with vertical placement. Can you tell that at the store they didn't have any more packs of solid colors? I thought I could make some type of abstract rock kind of pattern maybe. I figured if all else failed, I could just flip it inside out and just have the black layer on the outside. So again, I tooled, watered, soaped, and rubbed this layer. Then I flipped it over. Now on this very last layer, I did the vertical wool placement, but I did not do the wool hanging over the edges. Then I did the tool, water, yada yada. You know by now. And by now, there should be 4 layers of wool on each side. Alright, this looks like a thing. I put bubble wrap on top, bubble side down, squirted some of the soapy water on top, and rubbed it all over for about 5 minutes, making sure to get at the edges as well. The soapy water on top of the plastic helps your hand slide smoothly over the plastic without getting caught. Then I flipped it over and repeated this process. Then I did it again 2 more times. Now I rolled everything up around my PVC pipe and tightly tied it with some string. If you use nylon tights, it seems way easier because it doesn't look like you have to knot it like I did with the string to make sure it stayed in place, so you don't have to constantly be cutting the tights off, you can just untie them. I laid down a towel and then got to rolling. I rolled it for like 1 to 2 minutes, making sure to distribute pressure along the whole thing. Then I unrolled it, rotated the piece about a quarter, rolled it back up, and rolled it for another 1 to 2 minutes. I repeated this 2 more times. I flipped it over and repeated this whole rolling process on this side. By then, the cardboard started to buckle because the wool was starting to get tighter, so that meant it was time to cut it. So I wasn't thinking, and I was just really excited to move on to this next step, and I cut a hole almost exactly in the middle, even though I wanted to make it more off-center. But thankfully, I had the foresight to cut a smaller hole, so I was able to adjust it a little bit later on. I soaped up my hands and rubbed the edge so that it felted together. Then I proceeded to carefully pull the cardboard out, which by then was soaking wet, so it came out pretty easily. Then I rolled it up in bubble wrap around the PVC again, and repeated the rolling process on that side. Rolling, turning a quarter, rolling, turning a quarter, and so on. Once I did that, I decided that it was time for plan B and that I should flip it inside out so the black layer was on the outside. It's more gray now because the fibers from the second layer were starting to come through, but I'm totally fine with that. I actually initially wanted this thing to be a nice heather gray color, so after I flipped it inside out, I repeated the rolling process on the other side. After I finished that, I ran my hand around the inside of the cave to make sure that it wasn't starting to felt together on the inside. And now it's time for more hand felting and shaping. Initially, I just balled up some bubble wrap and used that on the inside, with warm soapy water of course, and then used more bubble wrap on the outside with my hands. I really worked the edge, attempting to get out any wrinkles, and to make the crease from the cardboard go away. After a while, I switched to using a metal bowl on the inside to try to shape with that. After doing this for a while, I decided to take it to the sink because I'd have a constant source of hot water there. So I continued to shape it with soapy, now super hot water. I'm wearing gloves here because the water is too hot for my bare hands. So I worked this basically until I just sort of felt annoyed with it and wanted it to be done, and moved on to the next step. I should have taken a little break here and continued shaping it later, but oh well, what's done is done. Then I rinsed out the soap with cold water and then began to alternate between hot and cold water, which is supposed to help shrink the project. I read somewhere to throw the piece around in the sink a little bit, so I did that. After a while of this, my back was starting to hurt and I started to think about my previous wet felting experiences where you just toss the whole project in your washing machine and check on it every few minutes, and I had the brilliant idea to toss this in there for a few minutes and see how that'd work. I don't know if it was the best idea. It did shrink a good amount, which is what I wanted, but some of the felt on the outer layer started to shed off weirdly. Basically, it wasn't all sticking together like it was before I threw it in there. Thankfully, it was just a tiny bit of the outer layer, but still. I attempted to hand scrub it a bit more on those spots so that it would refelt back to the rest of it, but I don't think that it was very successful. So when I decided that I was done messing with this thing, I soaked it in a pot of water and vinegar. I don't know if the temperature of the water matters, but I did cold water. Because this thing is so huge, I did 2 gallons of water and a half cup of white vinegar. I let that soak for 15 minutes. I'm pretty sure it helps to set the fibers or something. Here you can see some of the fibers that came off when I was trying to fix the washing machine mistake. After 15 minutes, I washed the vinegar out, squeezed a bit of the water in the sink, and took it back to the table. I threw a towel around it and used the PVC to roll out as much of the water as I could. I then laid a fresh towel and put some cooling racks down for it to dry on. I reshaped it and then stuffed it with towels while it dried. You can really see how much of the white fibers came through and mixed with the black ones. After it dried, I cut the hole a bit bigger, which shows off the layers of the cave, which I thought was pretty neat. And also because, as I mentioned before, my cat's a pretty big dude, so he needs a bigger hole to get inside of this thing. This was also my chance to kind of sort of adjust where the hole was. Here you can see just how much it shrank. I drew another circle on cardboard that was as big as the cardboard resist that I used. It shrank about 8 inches. And here it is all complete. Now I just gotta put it in a spot that my cat would like to sleep. Like the cat shelves, it took him a little bit to get used to this thing, but some catnip helped him realize how awesome this thing is. I hope you all enjoyed this project. I'm kind of bummed that I couldn't get the edges really smooth, but I'm pretty sure that just boils down to my inexperience, not having ever done this technique before, and also not spending the time to really shape the edges as much as I could have. But Gremlin seems to like it, and really that's all that matters. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. I post DIY videos every Thursday. You can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Pinterest. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next week. At least he's laying on it.